Hi, everybody. How's everyone doing today on a beautiful Thursday? Way excited for an upcoming event that I have called Speak Your Truth. And I am inviting Hugh Vail today to just kind of introduce himself. I had asked him for a bio, and it was pretty funny because he's like, I don't really believe in bios. and so I'm going to wait for him to get on here in just a minute, but I just thought I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the event and hopefully he joins on here. So, hi, Rob and Jim and Braden. Thanks for joining me. And Carla. So, when we decided to do the Speak Your Truth event, we were just hearing a lot from our youth through Every Teen Scene is one of the nonprofits I work with, and was really hearing that it was difficult to be ourselves and be authentic, especially here in Utah. And so we decided it's time to open up a space for everybody to be themselves. So Hugh is going to be one of our speakers at that event. And sorry if I kind of go back and forth. I'm just making sure I can see him when he comes in here. Hugh, if you come in, just wave and let me know that you're in. He's on vacation, and so it's kind of fun because he is. Oh, there he is. Hold on one second. Approve. I'm grateful he's coming because he's on vacation with his family. So, um, hey!
Do I have strong enough Wi-Fi?
So far, it's kind of, I heard a little bit.
Okay,
Oh.
good.
How's your vacation going?
Very well, very well.
Good. You needed some time.
Especially because you can see where I'm at. I mean, it's beautiful out here.
Yeah, that is gorgeous. Yeah, I was just saying you're taking some time. You've been really busy,
Yes.
and you got a helicopter.
Uh-huh.
So, when I was kind of sitting with the reason why I was laughing because when I asked you for a bio, you're like, I don't believe in bios. So I'm like, why don't we do a Facebook Live instead? And let people get to know you.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
do you want to give a little introduction of who you are, like what you do, and just a little one, not too much. We'll save that for the event, but just a little snippet of how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, well, I mean, originally I was in the software industry and or maybe even prior to that, go back, gosh, 10 years ago. Um, I was just a entrepreneur, always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I started my first company when I was 13. I was like the best lawnmower kid in the in the county, and just that was my thing, and that's how I always liked. Yeah, I just always liked doing my own thing, and
Mhm.
really got into marketing automation in the software space, and then just doing social media as Facebook and all that started, these Facebook Lives started becoming more and more popular.
Yeah.
And so I had an opportunity to, work with some organizations, in particular one with helps children that are kidnapped and sold into child sex slavery, and was able to help out with them and did a lot of their marketing and their videos and their Facebook Lives. And we had a fantastic little show called The Rescue Report. And that was really cool to be a part of that. And then um gosh, and then that just went into some amazing stuff of working with some nonprofits, and now I have my own nonprofit. So
Yeah, so pause before you talk about your nonprofit because I wanted to kind of lead into that story. I had a really great opportunity. You had invited me to come down to a ranch that you've been spending a lot of time at. And so I got to spend a few hours there and a few hours back and a couple of days getting to know really a lot about you. And I realized that the power of words, like you are very conscious of the words you use. And so, as we were talking about what we can discuss about today, that's what kept coming up was, why are words so important? And then how did that lead to your new endeavor? So,
Yeah. Well, I think one of the first conversations that we had was sitting around the campfire that night, and somebody, I don't know if it was you or somebody, had said ironic, and I was like, nope, that's paradoxical.
Yeah.
And we got into this discussion between when do you use the word ironic and when do you use the word paradox. And so I do get kind of annoying and using the words in the right way, and so it's a blessing and a curse. But
Very.
so the word, yeah, I mean, gosh, when you're looking at what's going on in the world, and I mean, there's so many great things obviously that are going on, and great technologies, great opportunities, and yet at the same token, to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So we also have some of the worst things that are happening in the world. And like I mentioned before, just human trafficking is just, it's on the rise. It's a terrible, terrible, horrible thing that's happening. And so how do you solve some of the biggest problems when we're also living in an opportunity with some of the biggest opportunities, to solve these problems?
Mhm.
And to me, I was actually on a tour a couple years ago. Um, and it's called the American Covenant Tour, and it was fantastic. And I was going all over the East Coast, and we stopped off, and I don't remember exactly where it was, but I mean, we saw the Jefferson Memorial, and we saw where Martin Luther King stood and gave his "I Have a Dream" speech, and that, that's one of the men that I have read everything you can possibly read with Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, I just love the way he uses words. And I ended up coming across a couple different um, quotes. That one had been from Ben Franklin, and another had been from George Washington. And George Washington said that there's an indissoluble union between virtue and happiness. And Ben Franklin, I ended up seeing on this same American Covenant tour, he ended up saying that uh, liberty and freedom was only for a virtuous people.
Mm.
And put those two quotes in the light of what was on my mind at the time, and something I was so heavily involved in with, was the human trafficking industry. And so virtue just kept popping up. And I realized that I probably didn't have a proper understanding of that word and why the founding fathers were saying what they were saying about it. And so that took me down this rabbit hole of really trying to figure out words and why they matter and how to properly use them.
Mm.
And I think one of the things that I had probably changed the most for me is when I was down that rabbit hole of words, I I just remember going weeks and weeks and weeks not being able to find any of the words or find any of the definitions. I mean, Socrates said the beginning of wisdom is the definition of terms. And so you have to get the terms right, which means you got to get the words right. And then once you got that all right, well, then you still got to figure out what the proper definition is. And so I ended up finding a lot of value in going into some of the ancient languages and some of the languages that are dead, like classical Greek and classical Hebrew, or you could also call them ancient Greek or ancient Hebrew,
Mm.
and really seeing what were the words that they were using for virtue. And when you get into some of those words, and they get translated, I mean, there's like 3-4 different words from classical Greek that get translated into the English word virtue.
Mm.
And when you put all those words together, all of a sudden you have a very, very clear understanding of what, I mean, for me, what those two quotes from one from Ben Franklin, one from George Washington, actually meant and what they were actually talking about. And I was completely wrong when I first heard those quotes or read them. Just my interpretation of what I thought they were and what I thought they were saying, what I thought they meant, I was way off compared to what it was. So that's kind of the beginning and why that means so much to me, why words matter.
So the name of your new endeavor, what is that called? I mean, it represents virtue, but what's the name of it?
Yeah, so the official name is the Clapham Foundation, and that came from William Wilberforce. William Wilberforce he lived in this tiny little community for a while, for about 10 years, called Clapham. It's just about 4 miles outside of Westminster, and they created this little society, and the Clapham Society is really the organization. They did a lot of awesome things. One of the things that they did is just incredible, is they were the ones that eradicated slavery. And not only did they make it illegal for the transatlantic slave trade to continue to exist and do what they were doing, but they ended up eradicating it and just blowing those ships right out of the water.
Mm.
That came from the Clapham Society and the efforts that they put together. They shut down the transatlantic slave trade. And then something else that was really fantastic is they were really the ones that ushered in the Victorian era. So that era where it was all about the gentleman and the lady and the virtue and all the rights and the wrongs and everything.
Mm.
And so they were the ones that ushered that era into existence.
Yeah.
So we are the Clapham Foundation, and what we do is we work to develop what Aristotle and Socrates and the classic Greeks said, to develop men and women of Arete.
Mm.
And Arete is, they pronounce it differently, but we're in America and we'll just screw it up and try to skate by. But Arete, Arete, and Arete means excellent or moral excellence.
Mm.
But when you become a man or a woman of Arete, it's something far surpassing than just moral excellence. It's somebody who has all of the command of their faculties and the facilities, so their God-given gifts and the gifts and talents that they've developed themselves, that they have command of those faculties and those facilities, but they develop the command of them through great conflict and struggle and tons of things that are unfair and unfortunate and unjust, which all that happens to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And not only do they experience that, and it's really hard to experience those things, because when you have something that's unfair or unjust, what you end up getting is, your results with that is pain, grief, loss, sorrow, rejection.
Mm.
There's just tons and tons of heartache that comes with those kinds of situations.
Mm-hmm.
But a man or woman of Arete would deal with those, and they would still do the right thing for the right reason at the right time in the right way to the right person, regardless of how unfair or unjust those circumstances might be for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, to become a man or woman of Arete to us is, there's a lot of great examples out there. Of course, no one's perfect, but we think that would solve the problems that we see in the world today if we just had more women and men of Arete. That's really our take on it.
So you're creating an app, and that's really why we invited you over to speak, because the Intuition Academy is really about finding tools, that how do we deal with all these things that are unjust and unfair that is going to happen anyways, but a lot of times we numb it or do things to just pretend it's not happening. But you're actually going to provide us a tool with how to become a, so you have a helicopter?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, they're
Okay.
swarming. It looks like it's one of those, medical helicopters, and we're tucked away in these mountains and
Oh
the
no.
redwood forest and the big basin, and I don't know, maybe they're looking for a lost hiker or something.
Oh man. But yeah, so when they're
So,
expecting your app to come out, what does that look like for us? Oh, he's frozen. Hello. Hopefully he comes on here. Um, if not, that's awesome. At least he has a smile. But if not, you guys will get all of that information at the event on the 1st. It's going to be at the DoTerra International Center in and $5 for youth. And what's the youth is very much encouraged to this event, and the first 25 people that come get in free. So this very first event is really just rolling out what we do, and we're excited to have everybody there. So I will go ahead and put the link in the comments, and I would love it if you guys would all share um, this event with your friends. So Hugh is awesome. I think you guys are going to really enjoy him. He's been very influential in my life the last couple months and has really given me insight to things that I looked at differently. And we're excited to have him. So, if any of you guys have any questions, feel free to post them here. Or I just want you all to know that I appreciate you guys chiming in and watching these lives and sharing them. It's exciting we have these awesome tools, and I know that we can create a lot of the solutions to these problems that we're being faced with. And our ultimate goal at the academy is to give our children just a better, of course we want something better for them, but just more tools to be authentic and to be themselves and to tune into who they are. And that's really where the creativity comes from. So, anyways, thank you all for chiming in, and I will hopefully see you next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. I'll talk to you later.